Sup VC, Bobby B here. I'm back. Welcome back. I'm enjoying my morning Java, and I am here to embark on my top 40. I know it's been a while, as it always is. I say this every time, just life gets in the way, and that's what happens. Um, and there's so many things I'd like to show you too, but I make too many empty promises, so I won't do that this time. But I've bought tons of records this year, and I've been to tons of concerts. I don't know how many of you know this about me, but I'm an avid concert goer. Some years I go to more than others, but boy, this year has been a big one, and I've just seen so many, and I've loved to kind of do sort of just a concert talk video with you, just kind of letting you in on just some of the great shows I've seen this year. Because in my life, I've been to about in the area of about 500 shows, and this year I've seen three of the greatest shows I've ever been to. I've been to tons of shows this year. I've probably been to somewhere like 15 shows or something, but there's about three that I would rank amongst the best concerts I've ever been to. And I'll tell you that here. I could get into more detail about it, but I saw Dweezil Zappa back in April, I think it was, performing the songs of his father, Frank, and that show was unbelievable. I finally saw Radiohead in I believe it was June, and I had never seen Radiohead before, and somehow my friend managed to score. I think it was like third row seats to that, and it blew my mind grapes. Just one of the greatest shows I've ever been to. And then I recently went to see Johnny Marr as well, and that I was not expecting it to be as good as it was. And when you factor into that so many other great shows, I mean, I saw Rocky Erickson this year. Anyways, that's a topic for another video. But so that's awesome. I've also picked up some amazing records this year that just I've found some great ones at work, but I've also just picked up some outstanding, look at this. This is just a glimpse, just giving you a glimpse, little, but like this. Ooh, Miles Davis. This, you wouldn't believe the deal I got on this guy. But anyways, topic for another time. The reason they're here, besides the fact that I'm listening to them, is I was contemplating maybe mixing that in with the countdown today, but then you got a video that's 850 years long, which, given the lack of frequency I have on these videos, maybe that's what you need. Maybe I should just upload one 450-hour video, get out everything I need to say. But anyways, it is what it is. Today, we're still doing the countdown, believe it or not. I think I started it back in January or something, and here we are. And we're just cracking the top 40 now. You guys, I appreciate how patient some of you are. Others have petered off, and I understand that. That's, I do this as much as I do this, for anybody who'd like to watch it, but also, it's kind of a document for myself too. So, but anyways, yes, we are now into my top 40 favorite albums of all time, and yeah, I'll just get started here, just kind of pulling up the infos. So at number 40, we have this guy here, Joy Division, Unknown Pleasures. And this here is a reissue. Unfortunately, a lot of the ones I'm showing you today will be reissues. Just because, I don't know why that is. I guess most of my favorite albums come in reissue form. But this album was released April 1979. It's their second album. It's their debut album, and it was released on the legendary Factory Records. Joy Division, most of us are familiar with the tragic tale of Joy Division, and primarily their lead singer, oh my goodness, whose name has just escaped me, which is the most ridiculous thing that's ever happened to me in history. And look, when you look at the record, the liner notes are minimal. So I can't even cheat and look on here and tell you who the lead singer is. Wow. And I'm not going to edit this because I don't edit my videos, because that's part of the reason why it takes me so long to make videos, is because the editing process makes me nutty. It's Ian Curtis. Ian Curtis. You ever heard of Ian Curtis? Lead singer of Joy Division. Anyways, so they only released a couple albums, had a couple of singles, and then, New Order formed from them. Another great band. But Joy Division's Unknown Pleasures is my 40th favorite album of all time. It's just so raw. I love the percussive sound on this album. They actually, Hammett, the producer, forced the drummer, or recorded the drummer on the roof of the recording studio, banging on a very minimal kit, and it makes for a very unique, very raw, lo-fi kind of unique sound. It's an amazing album. She's Lost Control, I would say, is one of the highlights of that record. And so that's my number 40. Number 39 is an album that came out in 1984. I suppose it falls into the krautrock genre or electronic genre. But this is Manuel Gaching. The album is E2, E4. Manuel Gaching from Ashra Temple. Prior to this, in 1975, he released an album, I believe it was called The Electronic Sounds of... Inventions for Electric Guitar. And that was a space rock, krautrock, an awesome album that actually garnered him a bit of success, or a critical buzz, and so people were eagerly anticipating the next album. For the next album, he was carefully honing it and planning it. He wanted to create the greatest album of all time, and it had basically a concept. It was going to be very complex. Anyways, one night he basically just starts noodling on his guitar and a lot of his kind of electronic devices and implements of destruction. And basically the tape was running, and he just started recording and getting into this groove and creating a jam that extended for about an hour, for about 60 minutes in length. The next day he heard it, and I guess with the encouragement of others, said, "This is too good to not release." They tried to reproduce it, but it just didn't have the magic of that original recording, so this is what they put out, and boom, techno, house music was born, according to some sources. So, I mean, depending on what your opinion of techno and house music is, maybe that's a strike against this, I don't know. But I don't think you have to be because I'm not huge on those genres, I don't think you have to be to appreciate the brilliance of this album. Obviously, to me, it's one of the greatest albums ever made, and it sucks you right in. I have it on vinyl, finally. This is a reissue. But it's one, if you get it on CD, that works. In fact, it kind of works because it is one long, continuous piece of music. It's almost worthwhile to get on CD if you prefer, but the vinyl is nice. It's got a nice textured cover. That's the theme today, textured covers, because even this one here has kind of a nice textured cover as well. So, but anyways, E2, E4 by Manuel Gaching is number 39 on my list. Number 38 is an album I've talked about a few times before on this channel. It was released October 2002. It is my favorite album of the aughts. It is by Toronto collective Broken Social Scene, and the album is You Forgot It in People. It's a double album, and I've mentioned it before, but at the time that this album came out, I had spent a few years where I was doing what a lot of people my age do, which is just kind of lose an interest in new music. And I was starting to sink into being one of those people that just kind of, well, the music of my youth, the music I grew up, the kids today don't know what they're listening to. And then I went to a festival on Toronto Island that was to be headlined by Sloan, one of my favorite bands of all time. They were the headliners, and so I went to see that, and the rest of the show, or the rest of the festival, highlighted bands that were personal favorites of the members of Sloan. Arcade Fire had I think a 1:30 slot in the afternoon. The 3 o'clock slot was to this band, Broken Social Scene, and when I saw that live show, I mean, I don't want to wax hyperbolic, but it was euphoric. It just oh my goodness. There had to be like 15, 16 people on that stage. They were into the music they were playing, but they were fans of one another as well, and it just, oh my goodness, it restored my faith in music, and I became hungry for music again, and I started diving into new music again, and I still continue to do so today. And I don't know if I'll post a video or not, but I mean, I could easily come up with a top 25, top 30 albums of 2018. I still listen to as much new music as I ever have, and I think that's important. I think if you stay stuck in the past, it becomes very, very hard to stay enthusiastic about music. Although there's a lot of stuff you can continue to dig up from the past too, so it works both ways. Coffee. But anyways, You Forgot It in People by Broken Social Scene. Indie rock, I suppose you would call it. It's genreless, really, because it does kind of weave in and out of so many different styles. Side 2 of record 1 is probably one of my favorite just like sides of music ever. It starts off with an acoustic number called Looks Like the Sun, sung by Andrew Whiteman, who also has another project entitled The Apostle of Hustle. That leads into this instrumental piece, Pacific Theme, which when the horns kick in on that theme, it's like if you have that on your headphones and you're walking down the streets of the city, all of a sudden everybody you come across is a beautiful person and your best friend. It's a wonderful song. And then that leads into a piece called Anthems for a 17-Year-Old Girl, sung by Emily Haynes, who's also in the band Metric, which, meh, but a lot of people like Metric. And it's kind of, anyways, I can't even describe that song. It's a very unique, it's a very repetitive, it's almost sort of like a krautrock, but with vocals as the main instrument. It's kind of, anyways, Broken Social Scene, You Forgot It in People, my number 38 favorite album of all time, and my number 1 album of the aughts. So that might kind of tell you where we're going here. Speaking of inventive albums and inventive music, released October 1959, Ornette Coleman's The Shape of Jazz to Come. Free jazz, really a kind of a newish sound for that time. In fact, the album was originally going to be entitled Focus on Sanity, which is the title of the first track on side 2, which I think would have also been a great name for the album. But I guess those involved in making the album felt that The Shape of Jazz to Come, they wanted something that would emphasize the unique turn that jazz music was taking at that time. And I'm sure this isn't the first free jazz album ever, but it's certainly one that kind of popularized that style and showed just how out there jazz music could go. So it's just an amazing album. Amazing players: Don Cherry on cornet, Charlie Hayden on bass, Billy Higgins on drums, and Ornette Coleman, of course, on alto sax. Not a huge band, but a huge sound. And really, it's something you got to be in the mood for. It's not a, it's a challenging listen, as most free jazz is. But, oh, baby. Amazing. Ornette Coleman, Shape of Jazz to Come, on Atlantic. Released October 1959. All right, there are so many albums by this artist that could have come next on this countdown, whatever number we're on, I don't even know. But I'm going to say 30-something, 40, 39, 38, 37, number 36. You know, there are a few artists that to me just had a perfect run of albums. I often say REM's run of albums on the the original, their first 4 or 5 albums or 6 albums was a perfect run of albums. Stevie had a perfect run of albums in the 70s as well. This is the one that makes my list. Inner Visions, this to me is his funkiest one. He released a few very lengthy albums at this time that were all excellent. How somebody could do a double or triple album and just keep like all killer and no filler, you got to be a genius like Mr. Stevie Wonder. This album is just a single disc, but oh yeah, he's got his nose to the funk stone. August 1973. That's you know, about a month or two before I was born. And when you get to my age, you forget actually what month you were born in. I can't remember. It was in the fall winter stretch. Speaking of which, winter, we had our first major snowstorm yesterday, and it's beautiful from afar, but far from beautiful, you know what I'm saying? You know what's crazy is I hear a lot of you outside of Canada actually got it worse than us. Some of the states got it pretty bad. Anyways, stay safe, people. Yeah, Inner Visions, Stevie Wonder. This album, Too High, Visions, Living for the City, Golden Lady, Higher Ground, the original Higher Ground, which, you know, the Red Hot Chili Peppers did a really cool version of that. Don't You Worry About a Thing. I love that song. That's one of my favorite Stevie Wonder songs, Don't You Worry About a Thing. Oh, man. You know what, this album's so great, I may even put it on as soon as this video's done. Anyways, Inner Visions by Stevie Wonder is my next favorite album there. All right, moving from the funk to the punk at number 1, 2, 3, 4. At number 34, this was, you know, the brother who started this whole thing. You know what? I'm only half a coffee in, so I'm forgetting names and stuff, and I apologize big time for this one because he was the inspiration for these videos in the first place. But you know who I'm talking about. Tales from the Crate. That's not his name. That's not his given name. His given name will come to me again one of these days. But this was his number one, and you know it's hard to argue with that. It's Iggy and the Stooges, Raw Power, released February 1973. Punk, garage, proto-punk, hard rock. I don't know what you want to call it, but yeah, just a punch in the face. This album is like a punch in the face. It feels so good, and you know what can I say about this that hasn't been said before? It's the third album, I believe. Their other the two albums before that, the self-titled album and Funhouse, are also great, but I think this one beats them all. Although I do love that first album. That first album could have easily made my top 100 as well. By the way, I started this top 100 so long ago, I think it's all different now. I'm sticking with the list that I had originally, but there's like I was listening to the White Album the other day, and for the first time in a while, and I was just like, how is this not in my top 100? Spoiler alert, White Album somehow didn't make my top 100. But basically, it's because I'm an idiot. Raw Power. This is a reissue as well. This is the one that has the two mixes. It has the David Bowie mix and the Iggy Pop mix on here. The Iggy Pop mix will always be the mix for me, personally. But you know what? I might actually be getting mixed up. Maybe it's the Bowie mix I prefer. No, I think it's the Iggy Pop mix I prefer, which was a later mix. But anyways, either one, they both kind of have their unique styles to them that make them interesting, and they're very different than each other too. So they are two very unique listening experiences for sure. But Iggy Pop, Raw Power, Iggy and the Stooges, Raw Power. That is my next, the next one on my list. Now we've also got here this album. The next album on the countdown, sorry, is the Ramones. More punk rock, Rocket to Russia. It's their third album. A lot of people would have their debut on here. Yeah, the debut could have been on here too. Really, I mean, honestly, the Ramones from one album to another, it's really just going to be personal taste, which songs you like best, because let's be honest, there isn't a heck of a lot of variety on their albums. So any of their albums could have made the list. Their debut almost did, but I went for the third one. I like it better. I mean, it's got Sheena is a punk rocker, and We're a Happy Family, and Rockaway Beach. It's Teenage Lobotomy. I just, even their version of Surfin' Bird is just amazing. But the Ramones, Rocket to Russia, I don't know. This isn't the pressing I would necessarily recommend. It's one on red vinyl. It's the only one I got right now. You know, when I was first getting into the Ramones, that's when I was buying tapes, cassettes. So I've got their albums on cassette a lot. I probably got one or two on... No, I think I just got a retrospective thing on CD. Which, honestly, that's... You know, Ramones Mania. If you need to... That's right, I'm bald, okay? Now you all know. Ramones Mania. If you ever... you could just get that, and that's pretty good. But anyways, Ramones, Rocket to Russia is number 30-something, 34. Favorite album of all time. Number 33 is the Pink Floyd. This album was released... See, I've got my... Why is my Wikipedia showing the wrong albums here? Here we go. Number 33. Released June 1968. Pink Floyd. It's Saucerful of Secrets. It's their second album. My Pink Floyd choices in my top 100 are pretty odd, because... Odd for me, anyways, because I grew up listening to Pink Floyd, and it would have been the Pink Floyd that many people listened to. Dark Side of the Moon, The Wall, Animals, Wish You Were Here. And all albums that I still love, but I just listened to so much over and over and over and over and over again that I kind of OD'd on the PF, you know what I'm saying? So these days, it's the older stuff that I listen to the most, and this is one of the ones that is making my countdown. Their second album. It's the only album that has all 5 members on it, technically. I mean, Syd Barrett was already leaving the band at this time due to mental illness. And so David Gilmour jumped in to replace him. And so you've got Gilmour on this, but you do have Corporal Clegg and Jug Band Blues. Or sorry, you've got Jug Band Blues on here, which is a Syd Barrett cut. It closes the album. This album is weird, man, but I just love it. I love the opening, one of my favorite side one track ones, Let There Be More Light. I just love that opening bass, that and then just kind of slows into something trippy. Saucer Full of Sea. The title track is mind blowing. Set the controls for the heart of the sun. Oh, that song's got just an amazing groove. Yeah. Saucer Full of Secrets, baby. Number 33. Number 32 is this guy here. Yeah, this album doesn't need much introduction. What a way to rush into the 80s here. It is The Clash. Their third album, London Calling, double album, masterpiece. This is where, you know, The Clash are often referred to as a punk band. Their first album is definitely a punk rock album. White Riot, to me, is the greatest punk rock song of all time. But this is where they showed they were probably just too talented and had too many ideas to just be pigeonholed as a punk rock band. And this album goes through many different styles, some rockabilly, some reggae, and just some great pop music as well. Possibly the greatest bonus track in history with Train in Vain. Just a classic rock staple, but also just a great pop song. And, Spanish Bombs, Lost in the Supermarket, Clamp Down. Again, double album, all killer, no filler. I love the way this is sequenced. You know, honestly, the title track is the only song on this album that I'm sick of, because they play it so much. I don't know why that song gets played on the radio so much when you've got so many other great songs on this album. So, and that iconic cover as well, The Clash, London Calling. That is my number 32, and my number 31 album of all time is from 1977, I believe. Let me quickly look it up. September 1977. It is Steely Dan, Asia. This is the first American pressing. You want to find the AB label, not the AA label, the AB label. If you've got a good stereo system, even if you've got a mediocre stereo system with awesome speakers, there aren't many albums that sound as good as this one. This is a jazz rock a jazz rock masterpiece. Yacht rock, sure, why not? There's nothing wrong with yacht rock. If it's yacht rock, it's the best yacht rock album of all time. Asia, Steely Dan. Side one of this album, Black Cow, the title track, which Wayne Shorter's horn work on that title track, again, it'll blow your mind grapes. 30 Rock. Do you ever watch the show 30 Rock? That's where that expression comes from. Deacon Blues. Peg might be one of the first songs. Peg is one of those songs where it's like, I don't know, it must have played on the radio a lot when I was a wee lad, because it's one of those songs that just, it kind of brings back memories, sort of being a child without any real specific memories of being a child, if that makes sense. Anyways, that's number 31, Steely Dan's Asia. Home at Last. Lyrically, Home at Last is also one of their most beautiful songs. Yeah, there you go, guys. That's my top 40, or number 40 through 31. We're getting through it. I don't know. Who knows? Will we be done before the end of the year? It'd be awesome if we are. But we'll just have to wait and see. Anyways, it's been a blasty blast. Keep spinning your records. We'll talk soon. To all the people's names I've forgotten, I apologize. Tales from the Crate. I'm still watching a lot of your videos, by the way. Just so you know. I don't always comment, but I'm still watching them whenever I can. And I'm pretty active on the Instagram, The Vinyl Vagabond. If you want to follow me on Instagram, that's where you can kind of, pardon me, get a little glimpse into my life. Anyways, we'll talk to you soon, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Appreciate it. Bye.